Hello, thank you for accepting my poster for the Digital Research Conference in September 2012 in Oxford. And I'm sorry I cannot be there in person, so this is a very quick video just to give you a snapshot of what the poster is about. I promise it will be quick, should be 3 minutes. Um, the poster is automating online auditing of open access resources with a web service. Essentially, I will talk you through the poster. The poster introduces a little bit what was my doctoral research, which I completed in the last 2 years, and the problem space was fairly big and undefined. So this particular poster focuses on one aspect of the research, which is monitoring open access resources. Now there is a lot of questions as to why do we want to monitor open access resources, but essentially I could not find any open access resource in relation to some research that I needed to understand the state of the art of. And I realized, I became aware that this research was funded by a research council, EPSRC, in the UK, which states they have open access mandates. Now, the term mandate implies mandatory or some kind of compulsory provision, but it isn't so. So I don't think the term mandate is actually correct at all. But never mind. So this research focused on, we couldn't find the open access resources. I couldn't find any resource in relation to some research, and I was asking why. And then I realized that there wasn't a way that we could track what an open access policy actually yields. So there was no way that I could directly map a project being funded by public money to any amount of resources being produced, open access resources. And I thought, this is a gap and we need to do something. There is some research done by Bjork and Laxo and probably others that maps open access, the growth of the trend in terms of open access uptake, which is significant. It shows that approximately 10% of resources of research yields open access resources. These studies were done using statistical analysis, and certain terms were known. For example, the title of the paper was known, so you can run stats over known factors. But in our case, we didn't have any names of papers that we would look for. And there were a lot of other issues which are slightly too complicated to discuss in a poster. But fundamentally, we just took a knowledge seeker perspective into looking for open access resources. We don't know anything. We only know that there is a project funded by EPSRC in this case, but then the open access monitor process was tested over a number of research projects funded by different research councils, not only EPSRC. So, but the starting point was we know that the EPSRC has funded certain projects, and how do we find out which open access resources have come out from this project? And so we developed a simple process, which is look for the project information on the funding website, which is listed, and then search for the key terms of the project, which is like researcher or project name or all the variables that may correspond to the variables which are known. And I think we have somewhere, I have a specific set of variables that we've been looking for, but ultimately project name, project title, institution, and researcher. And we ran these queries using open search engine and the public web, and then kind of standardize the process a little bit and call it Open Access Monitor. You can search for Open Access Monitor on the web and you will find a website, which is a simple series of steps. It did come out of a very lengthy analysis. In the poster you will see that there is The first table on the first column of the poster shows some of the audit methodologies which were existing, which we tested. None of the auditing methodologies that I looked at, which are summarized very briefly in this table, actually did support what we were trying to do, i.e. Audit web-based resources. There is a lot of knowledge, not a lot, there are some knowledge auditing methodologies, but none of them were actually auditing URIs or web resources, and certainly none of them allowed us to carry out the auditing of the knowledge remotely. All the knowledge access, the knowledge auditing techniques and methodologies that I found were necessarily requiring people go to people's offices and open their drawers, which I thought in this day and age is not what we do. We looked at what they put on the web. And then I realized that, hey, you know, why haven't people done it before? It's kind of obvious. I am aware that this research is a little bit obvious, but it's surprising how often the obvious is completely overlooked. And, you know, this is an important small thing. So we developed Open Access Monitor, which is now, you can look it up in more detail on the website. And then we ran approximately 100 audits. We did 100 audits over a set, which was a specific set with certain characteristics. And in column 2 of the poster, you will see a chart which summarizes the number of projects which did yield resources, the number of projects that didn't yield any resource, which was over 50%. And the interesting result was that a small number of projects, I think the second largest group, scored none, but the third largest group scored very high. We had 11 projects out of the 103 or 100 and something scored 15, so the highest possible score you could get using Open Access Monitor process. And this was good news. And so what we have demonstrated so far is that Open Access, monitoring Open Access using web searches to find URIs that correspond to Open Access resources works. We have validated, done a lot of tests. If you're interested, I can give you all the research, access to the research. At the moment, only a couple of people have seen it, 2 or 3. Jim Handler has seen it, Peter Suber has seen it, what's his name, Stavan Harnad seen it. So a few people have seen the whole work, but this is just a snapshot. So Open Access Monitor works, but so far we have audited by hand practically for each project. We've done a search. I trained a couple of researchers, very kind people, who have said, okay, I'll have a go, so that they could carry out resource audits independently without me being there, and it works. But I think what this poster is suggesting is that we shouldn't be doing this by hand. Now we have a process. It was carried out by hand by human researchers, which were very briefly trained, like a 10-minute thing. But we should be able to automate this, and to create a web service shouldn't take much. In fact, it shouldn't take, it's a very doable, and it will solve the problem. So until now, when I spoke to research council asking them why you say that you monitor, because this is another story, but there was a table in the Digital Curation Center report which says that these councils monitor, and then when I went to ask them, do you monitor, they weren't very clear as to monitor what, monitor on it. And eventually I had to issue FOI requests to see, give me the data to show me that you monitor, and they didn't have any. So the FOI requests show that they're not monitoring open access uptake, or how many projects that they pay money to actually do produce open access resources. And they say, oh, well, we don't have the time, we don't have the people to pay the people to go and check that this open access is done. We cannot afford it. It's not doable. So by means of this poster, and with the research done so far, I demonstrate that not only is doable, it's trivial. It's trivial, and it delivers enormous benefit to know which projects actually do deliver open access resources and which not, because this could be used as a quality indicator. In fact, in the poster I also suggest that we may want to develop further metrics So we could create a ratio or a coefficient or some kind of figure and say, for each pound that I give to this research, so many open access resources have been produced, and this could be certainly in the future be adopted. So just to summarize very quickly, in this poster I present open access monitor, which has been tested after evaluating existing knowledge auditing methodologies. I realized that there wasn't one that would audit URIs, and Open Access Monitor does that. And we validated it against a set of cases, 103 in particular, and we gained meaningful insights into this behavior of the researchers in particular, which is reported elsewhere. But we have demonstrated that Open Access Monitor works. So far it works only manually, and we are proposing that this Open Access Monitor is an example of how open access resources can be monitored, but it should be automated. So we should have a web service that's very simply sets up checks for each pound of public money invested in research, how many open access resources can be traced by URIs. Very simple, very useful, very economical if done the right way. So shall I thank you very much? Probably a bit longer than I thought. Bear with me. And we'll see you next time, hopefully. Thank you. Bye. Oh gosh, 11 minutes. Oh.